What is up, crew? It is your host, Brad Bodnarchuk, back for a brand new episode here on the Half a Dozen Hospitality Podcast. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you for taking part in this podcast. I can't tell you how much this podcast has given me in the, we're past 2 years now. And it's amazing. It's one of those things where you keep doing it. And this I'm sure resonates with so many of you, especially those of you in relationships or in the hospitality industry, in this business. You just have to keep showing up. And at times I didn't want to record an episode, or I thought I was quote unquote too busy, or I didn't have an idea, or I didn't have a guest. But I just kept doing it. And now as I sit here and record this episode, I cannot tell you how much that effort is now paying off. And there's still so many rewards I can reap from this platform. The people I've met, the connections I've made, the lessons I've learned, the knowledge I've gained has just been immeasurable, and it keeps giving back. So if it wasn't for you guys, like I say, as I closed off most podcasts, if it wasn't for you guys, this show wouldn't exist. So thank you so much for being a part of it. I'm going to fix this camera here for a second. By the way, if you guys don't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Brad Bodnarchuk. So I wanted to hop on today, guys, and share something that is now impacting every aspect of my life. And after reading a lot more in the last few months, like 3 months, I'm reading a lot more. And when I read stuff, I feel like I'm really downloading it. I'm really kind of better understanding it. At times I would passively read. So there's a few things. So the first thing is I've divided my life now, as we sit here, into 3 categories. It is my family, my business, and myself. And that's it. But obviously from those, there are smaller categories or smaller ingredients, if you will, to those categories. But if something comes into my life and it doesn't positively impact those 3 things, it's very rare for me to invest in that thing. So family, business, and myself. That's one thing that I'm really pondering right now. But the second is this. It is coping versus creating. And when I read this, it struck a chord. It struck a chord because of my business. It struck a chord because of the podcast. It struck a chord because of my relationship. It struck a chord with me being a father, being a parent. And then I thought about a trip I had to Paris and how coping versus creating is a massive issue in the hospitality industry. And I'll break this down for you. So when I say coping versus creating, or coping or creating, I break it down like this. Coping is dragging your feet. Coping is not giving a F. Coping is just gliding through life, gliding through your business, gliding through your relationships. Whereas creating is work, and it's difficult, and it's challenging, and it's tough, but you're creating. There's motion. And when there's motion, there's emotion. And I thought about this trip to Paris. So I'll paint a picture for you. This is years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I traveled to Paris for the very first time. And throughout our time there, food wasn't a massive part of my life at that point. I wasn't like searching it out, but I really wanted to make sure that I made time to find and have steak frites. And for those of you that don't know, it's such a quintessential French dish. There's other versions of it in other parts of the world, obviously, but I had to have this in France, in Paris. And I remember we had wrapped up like a museum tour or something in a very touristy area, and then there was a restaurant literally a stone's throw from where we wrapped up the tour, and it had steak frites on the menu. So I thought, you know what, this is my opportunity. At the time, I wasn't a savvy traveler, and I didn't realize that you don't go to restaurants, right outside the museum. But we'll get to that in a second. And so I ordered the steak frites, and it comes, and it was probably, to date, one of the most disappointing and upsetting meals I've ever had. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm a white dude who was traveling in Paris and could afford to eat steak frites, so I'm a pretty privileged guy. But it just wasn't what I felt it should be, and it wasn't what I wanted. And I realized as I read this line, coping or creating, or coping versus creating, that's what was happening with that steak frites. That part of me is what was happening with that restaurant. That is what happens with so many people in the restaurant industry, in hospitality, is we just cope. And I know I'm liable to offend some people with this, but be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself, with your life, with your relationships, with your health, then with your business as well. Are you really actually creating every single day? Are you actually putting in the work and the effort? Or because you have a restaurant that is a stone's throw from a famous museum, are you just cashing in your chips on that and let everything else happen? That is the reason that we have crappy restaurants. That's the reason we have crappy experiences, is people take advantage of the fact of, location is king or queen, and they'll just cope. They'll just, do the bare minimum. And I feel like with what's going on right now in the pandemic, these places got to get, ousted, because it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And I don't think that the universe will actually allow for it to exist any longer. I know it sounds kind of existential, but if you are just coping, it's going to cost you. You need to be creating. If you're not creating in your relationships, if you're not creating in yourself, meaning investing in yourself and doing work on yourself and educating, like I said, taking care of your health, your body, your brain, it's going to cost you. We all know that intuitively. And the same with your business. You may be coping right now and just getting by on, 60% effort or whatever the effort is. But I promise you that will come and bite you in the ass. And I encourage you to stop. I encourage you to flip the switch. I encourage you to start creating. And I know it's challenging and I know it's difficult, but life is difficult. This is all difficult. This is how it's supposed to be. It isn't supposed to be easy. If you want success, you need to work for it. If you want success, there needs to be some pain associated with that. The comfort zone is comfortable. And when we're comfortable, nothing good happens. It really doesn't. When the sweet stuff happens is through that growth, and that growth only happens when we progress, and that progress only happens when we step outside of our comfort zone, is when we create. So I encourage you right now, have an honest conversation with yourself. Look in the mirror. Ask yourself, break your life into 3 categories. Try mine for just a second. Ask yourself, in my life, in my business, and in my family, am I coping or am I creating? And again, there is no shame in coping. Every once in a while, you'll find me doing that as well. But the key piece is the awareness to go, wait, pause. I'm not putting effort in. I'm not showing up the way I want to show up. I'm going to start creating. I'm going to start doing things. I'm going to start making moves. I'm going to start giving emotion. I'm going to start being better. I'm going to start adding to, as opposed to just being, just existing. That isn't enough. Those steak frites, because it was in Paris and because it was by a museum, that's not enough. Like, it needs to be more than that. And I hope for the owners of that restaurant, that place is still open, and I hope somehow they're still busy. But I hope they've evolved, and I hope they are creating and they're not coping. So do yourselves a favor. Turn a light on yourself. Ask yourself a question. Heck, turn a light and a microscope. Ask yourself a question. Am I coping in my life, my business, my family, or am I creating? And I encourage all of you restaurant owners out there that are listening, if you own a spot in a touristy area, ask yourself, are we coping with our business or are we creating? That's all I have for you guys today. But before I let you go officially, I have to plug the new book, which is pre-ordering right now on my website. So you can go on and get your pre-order copy. It is a hard copy. It is called Life, the Recipe. It's a daily journal. I am super proud of it. I know you guys are going to love it. It ships at the end of September. So grab your copy now over at bradbodnarchuk.com and then over at HAD Hospitality, Half a Dozen Hospitality. You can always get the book there as well, but also the Culture of Excellence program is really for anybody, but specifically for the hospitality folk listening. This course in program is something I'm extremely proud of as well, and I would love to see you guys in it. If you think it'd be a good fit for you, if you're willing to work, invest time, money, and energy into you, your business, and your staff, your team, give me a shout, send me an email, brad@bradbodnarchuk.com. Let's chat and see if the program is right for you. That's it for me, guys. Have an amazing day. Go create something. Be ridiculously good to each other. And you know what to do until next time. Be good and do good.
And we out here, luxurious limoncellos, what we bout here. Tahiti violet vibrations, no doubt here. Celebrations and salutations, and we out here. Introducing Cadillac, a flowetry finesse and slalom slopes down the wavy west coast, making toast and this special dedication. Up another level, levitation. It's yoga, heavy metal meditation. Flowing only upwards, only tenderonis when homies open up the cupboards. Triple kiss fam, subtle signal, prosecco in the pail, getting carried in all white linen suits. Still y'all pale in comparison, y'all stale in comparison. Embarrassing, the suave see them set off in St. Lucia and then sail into Paris. And they bakey, flaky, pastry, paisley, rug on my back, laying flat, getting reiki. K-pasa, steak, lobster, and talking Gaza Strip. Politics, applause at the plaza, playing all the hits and speaking in Yoruba with a mademoiselle. Med student moonlighting with Maybelline, the moolah, and we out here. Luxurious limoncellos, what we bout here.